Oh,
You got me?
I see. Yeah, but your camera is not on for this one, Ken. So,
Uh, Somewhere should be a setup, I'm assuming.
let me take a look.
Uh,
Let's see.
I wonder if it's on the wrong camera. Where do I set up camera?
Joe, are you going to jump in the studio or no? Okay. All right. No
Yeah,
worries.
here,
Let me. No, I don't. Let me
I
hop
got
in. Okay.
it back. There we are.
There you are. All right.
It went to my camera and my clamshell computer or notebook instead of my one over my monitor. So,
No worries. So we are actually live streaming right now. We start the show a little bit early, so this just gives us a chance to chit chat for just a little bit. Where are you located?
outside of I'm in Martinsburg, West Virginia, which is a bedroom community of Washington, D.C.,
Okay.
about
Yeah.
7 miles west, D.C.
I was in. What's that? Hey Ryan, we started the broadcast. All right. I was out there for a meeting at that old golf club that has like the bunker in it.
Oh,
In
that was actually down in the southern Greenbrier.
Greenbrier, yeah,
Greenbrier, right? Yeah.
that is it. I found it to be a very weird place.
mm,
Um, I mean, I guess it was just so old and like I felt like I was sleeping in a museum.
hmm I've never actually gone into the place. I've driven by it quite a bit, but I've never actually been in there.
Yeah, unfortunately, I did not get to didn't get to play golf. That's what I would have loved to have done because the golf course looked pretty amazing.
It attracts a lot of people.
Well, for a long time it has. So I actually changed computers, so I got to get back to your couple of websites here. Have you always lived around that area?
Except for a little bit here and there. Yes, pretty much most of my life, I've probably been within 30 miles of this location living here.
All
Mm.
right. It's kind of interesting how people stick to their roots. You know, I grew up just maybe an hour north of Chicago.
Mm. I travel quite a bit. I mean, I've been to like every state, but yeah, it's funny. My truck's been to more states than most people ever get to in their life.
um, I'm sure there's a few miles on that truck then, right?
Yeah, I do about 50,000 a year. So,
Oh my gosh, how many miles do you have on your truck right now?
well, this is a new one. It's only got 30 on it. I just got it about 6 to 8 months ago.
And it's got 30 already.
Yeah,
Wow.
and
What? How long does it take you to wear one out? When do you
well, I'm
usually get rid?
surprised with the value of vehicles now. I traded in a vehicle that 155,000 miles on. I had a truck. This one was a single rear wheel drive that I traded in. It was a diesel, but it was worth $30,000 for a truck that had 155,000 miles on.
Shut up.
I was like, I was going to keep it. And when they said they'd give me that for it, I'm like, yeah, here it is.
Wow.
That's how
That
bad
is,
they want vehicles today.
that's crazy. Well, I mean, look, a diesel is a different animal altogether for sure.
Yeah.
But how old was the truck?
It was only a couple years old. I actually that was a couple years ago. I had a 2019 crew cab dually diesel, and I traded it in with 82,000 miles on. That was a little about 2 years old. With COVID, I had reduced a little bit of my travel, and they gave me 10,000 less than I paid for with 82,000 miles on it. So I figured, well, that wasn't bad either on that one. So traded that one, but I kind of wish I would have kept that one. We need to have a need for another area. I need a dually somewhere else. So
What do you need the dually for? What are you pulling?
I also have a big fifth wheel camper that's like 42 feet long. So
A 42-foot camper.
yeah,
That's like a tractor trailer.
Yeah, I'm used to having big loads. That's my business.
So my COVID sale claim to fame is I had a boat that I sold, and I got $500 more than I paid for it 10 years earlier.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Try to go buy a pontoon today. That's nuts. I mean,
oh gosh,
good. Mm.
buy anything. So yeah, that I was so happy. Now look, I will say the boat was still a loser. There was some maintenance along the way. Maybe there was an engine rebuild in there.
Mm.
Uh, it boats are that boat is just an acronym. It stands for bring out another thousand.
I actually I had a pontoon boat that I bought years ago. I bought it for 18. Now I put a few thousand into it, but I sold it for 25 when I was done because I wasn't really, I had jet skis and I wasn't using them as much, and it was easier to haul them everywhere than the boat, and use it for a lot of years. And I sold it for probably more than I paid for it, but it was in good shape too. I took really good care of it, so and I got it that way.
Yeah, that is the key. So, all right, it is noon. Let's see here. Change. Normally, we have someone who is doing the caption changes, but she's on vacation.
Oh,
Lucky
you've been promoted.
she's in Mexico. I look out the window here, and I am not in Mexico.
You have a window at least.
All right, so welcome everyone. This is a very exciting show today. Uh, we're talking about a topic that is close to my heart, which is innovation in construction. We have Ken Semler with us. Hello, Ken.
Hello. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing quite well. So, Ken, you're on the Smart Market. Why the heck are you here? What?
Because you already asked me. So,
This is true. So, what's going on in your world? What do you do? Who is Ken Semler?
well, I am, I guess, the big into modular construction, and we do primarily single family home construction, some small multifamily, but I'm a custom modular home builder across the country. And I also own a modular factory that's located in Greenwood, South Carolina, that we
Oh,
do semi.
wait, let's back up a second. You just said something that most people would disagree with. Custom modular home builder. How can you be custom and modular at the same time?
Actually, I usually describe it as I'm a custom home builder that, oh, by the way, uses modular construction, and very regionally. But basically, today, if you dream it, you can build it. And we take very elaborate. We do multi-million-dollar home plans in Long Island, New York, and people don't believe it, but actually, we're being sought out by people who have money and are intelligent, and they research the method, and they think they want to build better than anybody else, and they look us up.
Excellent. So I'm sorry, I interrupted you as you were moving along there. So you have a modular plant as well.
Hmm. And yeah, we build what I would call semi-production, and we there's a couple Gulf and Lake communities and the freshwater coast of South Carolina, and so we build in the western part of South Carolina, and we've got a community there called Savannah Lakes Village that we're trying to do about 120 to 150 homes a year in that community out of the factory. And we have a couple other local communities, and then we sell excess capacity to other developer builders.
All right. So a little bit of development, a little bit of actual manufacturing,
Hmm.
and then you're the builder as well.
Hmm.
So you're
Right,
putting,
everywhere. Licensed, registered, certified in 42 states.
and I am going to just share my screen here. Um, I want to show you've got several websites, but we'll start out with this one. I got to put it up. There we go.
Oh, that's me.
And you are a loud voice for promoting the modular industry as well.
You're being kind. Uh, yes, I do. I really am passionate about not just our company, but the industry. I'm currently the vice president of the Modular Home Builders Association, and I'm a past chair of the Building Systems Council within the National Association of Home Builders. And so I really do I believe in what we do. I believe it is the new way that, the future way we're going to do construction in the U.S. And so I do everything I can to get everybody on board.
So let's talk about modular construction, and let's distinguish what it is and what it is not. I think that's very important.
Yes.
How about what do people? What's a common thought of what it is?
So I always tell people it's the confusion of the M word, and we really haven't done ourselves a great service in our industry, because we call ourselves, we use the term modular construction. Well, the M word gets combined or confused with manufactured homes, mobile homes, which most people then equate to double wides. And because we get built in sections or Legos, basically just like you would see a manufactured or mobile home, that's what people equate it to, and it's nothing like that.
But it's understandable if you are out on the road and you see this big block going past you. You
Mm-hmm.
say, "Oh, that is a manufactured home, mobile home."
Right.
But I learned something as we were preparing for this. There's a major distinction between the two types of construction
Mm-hmm.
because of the code. So explain that, because that was very enlightening to me.
Okay, so there is a federal building code, and HUD code housing is what they call it, which is built to the Housing and Urban Development Manufactured Housing Code. And the whole purpose of that is to provide affordable housing. And we all agree that there needs to be affordable housing available for the home buyers in the United States. And so it's a code that is prescriptive. It's different from the code that we build every other house to, which is called a descriptive code, the International Residential Code, or on the commercial side, the International Building Code. The HUD code is prescriptive. It says, thou shalt withstand 90-mile-per-hour wind zones. And it doesn't matter how you do it. You can do it with 2x3s and bubble gum. And if an engineer stamps it, then that's good enough. And that's what's put out there. Now, the homes are typically built nowadays with more than 2x3s and bubble gum, but it's still a prescriptive code. And the manufacturers are trying to build a home as cheaply as they can to meet the desires of the affordable housing market, which is very different than what most people are used to having in construction, which is the descriptive code, which is the International Residential Code. It says thou shalt use 2x4s with 7/16" sheathing with 8-penny nails, 8 inches on center. It describes exactly how you build to pass building code for that the 2018 or the 2021. And that's how we build, because when we build modular construction, the biggest difference we did was we took an existing plan, divided it up into modules that we could build indoors in a factory, and we could transport to a site and then Lego-like fashion assemble. And typically most people like what we do once they research it, because just like Legos, how you know when they go together and how hard they are to come apart, that's the same kind of strength that we have, because I tell people, we have to take it down the road at 65 miles an hour and lift it with 2 cables on a crane. The easiest thing you'll ever do is sit on your foundation. And that's why when you see major hurricanes and tornadoes, the only house left standing is the modularly constructed home.
Well, and I think what you just said is an important distinction that I learned as well, is you literally pick the module up and you set it onto a foundation.
Yes.
As opposed to the HUD home is built on a metal frame, and that metal frame might be set on piers or something, but that metal frame stays with the...
It's an integral part of the structure of the manufactured home, and that's by the federal code. It's got to remain.
And I just want to point out, we're not dissing the manufactured home. That serves an extremely valuable purpose, and I think it's going to be even more valuable. And kudos to them, as they have advanced the industry and made their product even more desirable. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about modular building.
Mm-hmm.
So now we've got the distinction. We're not going to talk about that anymore. We're going to talk about you, Ken, and what
Okay.
you're doing. And let's talk about the state of the industry where it stands today. Um, it's been like a bear. It's been hibernating for a while, just kind of
That's a
moving
good way.
along. And all of a sudden, we have a problem on our hands. And the state, so let's talk about the state of the industry. What's modular doing?
Well, it's as you aptly said. I mean, I think modular's been hibernating, or many people have known about it for a lot of years, but because of the confusion of the M word, like we just spoke about, they really didn't know what it was. But they recently, I would say, and I say recently, over the last 3 to 5 years, primarily starting with the labor issue. There just is no labor, and it's getting worse. And as I tell people when I present, don't fool yourself. Labor is never coming back. We are not going to turn this tide. We're not going to reverse it. We're losing 6 people every year, or for every 6 people we lose, one person comes into the industry. That's not going to change. So what we have to do is learn how to find force multipliers and build more, be more productive with the labor and the systems that we have. So I would say in 2020, at the International Builder Show, it was really evident that we started. I mean, not that I'm a great speaker, but all of a sudden, the rooms that I would speak in that would be half full, all of a sudden, were standing room only in 2020. And then the International Builder Show took a break in 2021, and when it came back this year, the dynamics, and we did speak about this in the beginning, or the prep, is the number one thing in 2020 was the labor shortage. The number two thing was cost increases. When I would ask those same questions at the 2022 Builder Show just about 6 weeks ago, labor was an issue, price was, or costing was an issue, but the third thing that came in was supply chain issues. But now the importance had exactly reversed. It was supply chain, then labor, then cost, or cost, then labor at this point. And so it's a different world, but those are all the things that modular construction or offsite construction is fantastic at addressing. And so I would say, there's a lot of new products out at the International Builder Show, but this year it was modular construction was on everybody's mind. They were coming to I guess it went from, I think in 2020, there were 7 presentations that dealt with offsite construction. And even the NAHB recognized with what they put out there. I think there were 39 presentations regarding or related to offsite construction just 2 years later.
I have an interesting story as well. We were at the Structural Building Component Association show, the BCMC show,
Mhm.
and I'm going to say at least 3 modular builders came up to our booth and were asking about us, and we of course asked about them. And they said, "Oh, we're building a new factory," and I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's what's your outlook for business?" And they're like, "Oh, we're booked out for a year and a half."
Mhm.
How you haven't built the factory and you built out for a year and a half? And
Mhm.
what was interesting is it was the builder themselves. They
Mhm.
were building for themselves, right?
Exactly.
Uh,
Um, and that hits exactly with what we're doing. Leads into our factory is that's the exact same with us. I'm building a factory and trying to use up all the capacity, and we have some excess capacity available, but we probably have 300% of the request that we could actually fulfill in the next year and a half coming into the factory, and it doesn't stop. You know, when you say what's the forecast for our industry, the problem is capacity. We don't have enough in the industry. I mean, we knew we were getting discovered, and we thought it would be more like this, and it was like this. Just that fast, everybody wants in.
so let's talk about the factory. Um, you made a comment when we are getting ready that the industry turned construction into a manufacturing process. So
Yes.
what I'm going to flip to your website here. What does that mean? What does that look like, right?
Well, so there's a picture of our factory in South Carolina, and so what happens is what you see very precision indoor construction. And so outside, I mean, I always tell people it's the term stick built. Everybody always uses the term, what's a stick built house? And they, to me, incorrectly or misleadingly use it to define quality. Well, I have a stick built home. Well, as you're seeing pictures there, those homes are being stick built, but it's indoors. I don't see any rain getting on the floors of those modules. It's dry. There's jigs, there's machines, there's saws. It's not typically being done across the toe of your boot to cut the two by four for the next stud you're putting up. And so another thing you'll also notice there is the sheathing isn't going on first. When we build from the inside out. The first thing we put on is the drywall because we don't have to care about the rain. It's not going to rain. So what that means from an energy efficiency perspective is we can seal every penetration completely. So every time, that cold windy day when you put your hand by the outlet in your home and you feel the wind coming through it or that cold, that doesn't happen because we've sealed with fire foam or fire caulk every penetration on that wall assembly. Bugs, rodents, and air can't come through the wall because there's holes in it somewhere. And it's done precisely the same way you put in the sill pan membrane, you put the window in and you set it and do it correctly every time. It's done like that. I swear if you go to a site built home, the window was installed three different ways on three different sides of the house. It's not like that at a factory because it's done exactly the same way. And oh, by the way, there's quality inspections, not just code inspections that happen in the factory.
So I, I think another thing you kind of forget about is I'm going to install this window on the second floor of my stick built house. That requires you to take the window to the second floor and install it either from the outside, maybe from the inside. In modular, the second floor is on the first floor of the factory, right? And
Example. I'm not reaching out and leaning out and hoping I don't fall off or drop the window, or I always call it the good enough syndrome. I mean, we're doing ergonomic construction, like you say, we're doing it on level concrete floors, on jigs that are waist height, and I don't jump and put that last nail in and hope I get close enough because I'm right there. I'm doing it ergonomically and I can do it precisely every time.
there's an analogy that gets thrown out about, no one buys all the parts to their car and has it assembled in their driveway. Well, I think that's very descriptive and it's not a perfect example, but it is true. There's some serious advantages to building this in a factory and then taking it to the site. And now let's make another quick distinction, the difference between modular and just panelized.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, one of the things we've been talking about, and maybe I've been talking about it, and not really, describing it for people who are unfamiliar with the process, is there are a number of ways of doing offsite construction, and that's the broader term offsite, and some people might use the term prefabricated construction. And what I specifically do is volumetric modular. And there's panelized modular, and there's even different panelized systems. So starting with panels, there are some companies that just take the panels, build them on jig tables at a factory, and they're production builders. And I live outside of the Washington, D.C. area, and there are production builders that have had panelized factories for 30 years. And they build it on jig tables, the walls, they put it on a trailer, flat pack is what we call it. They deliver it to the site and use a boom truck to assemble it quickly. They may build the floors, or what we call floor cassettes, on site, or they may do them in the factory or in their facility. But they very quickly frame the house, and now they still have to use all the trades locally, do everything, all the mechanicals need to go in. And there's variations of that. There's, companies that really do engineer it, do it as a service. They deliver it to a builder. They assemble it. They have the roof up, and everything is done to a super design factory precision. That's what we do. That's what others do in the industry, and that's another version of offsite. With volumetric modular, what I'm doing is I'm taking just those pictures that you just saw. I'm putting it into a module that's completed, typically inside and out. So I have the flooring in, the trims complete, the insulation, wiring, cabinets, countertops, tile backsplashes, tile back bathrooms. That's all done. And then depending on how many modules or Legos I have, where they come together. We call it stitching or the trim out, but we have to then finish that little bit of trim, a little bit of floor transition, a little bit of painting or drywall where those modules come together. And I can even design through design, I can eliminate a lot of that finish work out so that the modules basically butt together with minimal finishing so that within days or weeks from the time I set my module, you have a certificate of occupancy. I
So
mean,
let's
that's
just touch on some of the unique challenges with modular. Um, you're a transportation company as well. You're
mm-hmm.
a logistics company. You're moving a big block down the road.
Yep.
Um, what have you learned in your days of that? Make sure
Um,
the wires are up.
well, legally, all the wires should be 16 feet or higher above the highway, and typically we were at 13 feet 9 inches on our carriers. But we have to construct, so we have, I call it origami roofs. Our roofs fold down and are hinged, and now the roof folds up in an origami fashion. But yes, I mean we typically are limited by transportation. I mean, you hit right on it, Mike. Is the we build our houses based on transportation rules in a lot of ways, and so we typically do widths of 13 feet 9 inches wide. And that's an oversized load. So with packaging, we're less than 14, or a super load is under 16 feet, and so we typically build at 15 feet 9 inches, and with packaging, we're just under 16. And so we end up getting down a lot of roads, and we have to schedule escorts because everything we do is some kind of oversized load. But it's funny you bring it up. Is there was a golf course community that we're building in, and it was an existing golf and lake community, and some of the neighbors or the people were concerned. One, because of the M word, we're coming in, and then once we kind of proved ourselves. But what they also now like us is we're the surgical strike, whereas existing builders building in there take 6 or 9 months to build a home, and there's mud and heavy trucks and workers and noise and debris blowing. Well, we're a surgical strike. We don't have all the debris blowing around, the trash messing around. There's not mud on their streets all the time from 6 months of construction workers in and out. And there was an over under on the first one of how many mailboxes we were going to take out in the community getting there. The answer was zero. I mean,
Impressive, impressive.
the drivers, we do what we do and we do it well. And we have the tools and equipment to do it well. So that's just that's the nature of our industry. We're just like you said, we are a logistics company as well as a manufacturing company, which by the way is doing construction.
Yeah, that's. I wonder. I'm sure your trailers and how you move them is impressive, but I think about the roads in Chicago right now. I'm due for a front end alignment, courtesy of some of the potholes. But that's got to be a bit of a challenge. The road conditions are not perfect, right?
Right. It's but it's part of, I always tell people carriers are a tool, and we use our carriers as not just a method of carrying the modules, but they have abilities to shrink and expand. We actually have carriers that will be coming that have hydraulics that lift up and down. We have, we actually have different methods of lifting the modules off of the carrier. And our goal is to get so you can't get a credit card between the modules. We want tight fits, and everything is about delivering that module safely to the site without damaging it or its surroundings, being able to lift it to create the least amount of stress on it, because we don't want drywall cracks, and we overbuild, so we don't have drywall cracks when we set modules. And then we want it to be as tight and energy efficient as possible once we get it together, and then finish quickly.
Quick question: do you polywrap your homes before the shipment to the site?
The current answer is yes, and actually in a more green way, we're actually trying to start soon. We'll be using box tarps, and that way we'll be able to reuse instead of disposing of the polywrap after polywrap typically is a one-time use. It's actually the only amount of debris or trash we have after set, and we're trying to start using reusable box tarps so that they will be lifted off, taken back to the factory, and we'll have pretty much zero debris on set day.
That's cool. So, all right, this is the smart market. We're supposed to be smart people looking forward. One of my, I guess, pet peeves I get is we build with what they make. What would be in Ken's world a much better product, a raw material to start with, or size? What would you like to see as opposed to, well, there's a bunk of 10-foot 2x4s. Um,
Well, yeah, when you ask me for all of that, I mean, I got a list right now that rolls out like a roll of toilet paper. Like, there's there's a lot of things, because I don't think people, when you start opening your mind to all the what could be, there's a lot of opportunities to improve the way we do construction. And so in a factory construction, we're not constrained by the size of materials or the weight of materials, because we can mechanically, or through materials handling, we can lift odd sizes. And so, I think in the pre-show you had mentioned like OSB. Well, assuming you're going to use a sheathing product like OSB, we would love to have that in larger sizes. Why can't we get that in a 10 by 28-foot length? Drywall is a big one. Drywall finishing in houses is huge. As a matter of fact, I called, as we were starting the factory, I called up USG and said, I want an OSB, or excuse me, I want a sheet of drywall that's 9 feet wide by minimum 16 feet long. And they're like, we can't do that. Well, I called them one too many times. So they said, come to our factory in Alabama and we're going to show you why we can't do it. So I was like, oh, great, field trip. So I took some of my folks and we went down, and they did a great job. The team at USG brought us in, but they showed us that it's a $120 million investment to go from 4.5, just to go from 4 sheet or 4 foot wide widths of drywall to 4.5. It's a third of a mile long facility. It's creating drywall at 600 feet per minute, and it's going down this long, and it's getting cut as fast as it can come out. It's getting flipped. It's getting not only cured, it's got to cure, but it's like much like cement. Drywall has to cure as well as dry. And so they have to do all of that. So from the time it's formed, 45 minutes later, it's getting flipped, taped, wrapped, and packed. It's an amazing process, but now I understand. But I did learn I can get drywall in 30-foot lengths. I just can't get it in 9 foot widths.
right.
That has that's actually useful. I can use that to actually reduce seams and drywall finishing at a factory. I can eliminate mechanical fasteners. So I mean, just think of callbacks, think of man hours in finishing drywall. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but that's an improvement.
Now, there's a question or kind of a comment about LSL Versalam, but on allocation. Let's talk about the supply chain just a little bit. How have you dealt with it? Obviously, I'm sure you've run out of some things that you like to use in the past. You know,
Yes,
you hear horror stories about automobile production where, oh, this part is no longer available. We have to shut down the line.
the chips. We don't have chips, so now we can't produce vehicles.
Right.
Um,
So I'm guessing you probably have flexibility built in, right?
well, so what we've done is, if you would have looked at our industry 2 years ago, historically the modular construction industry was a just-in-time process, and I will tell you that if you ordered a custom modular home, which you said, you thought was an oxymoron, is we could take a custom modular home. The factory would, upon the order coming in, would go call the suppliers and order it a week. So a week after it came in, the order would go out. Within 2 weeks, all the materials would come in. Receiving would check it if there was any damage, short shipments. They would reorder, get it fixed. So then 2 more weeks later, now 5 weeks in, that house went online, is what we called it. And depending on the factory's capability, 3 days, 7 days, 5 days, that house went online. It came offline done. That module contained done everything: drywall, tile, wiring, all of that done. But if the windows didn't show up, I don't want to put a module online that doesn't have the windows. That's significant rework out in the
Yeah.
yard or out in the field. Well, but now guess what? Windows are 34 weeks out. LVL is 12 weeks out, depending on what we need. So what that's done is it's forced us to, one, from a design, reduce our SKUs as to the extent possible. And then we happen to have a lot of, the average modular factory in Pennsylvania is probably 50 to 100,000 square feet. Our factory in South Carolina is really is 240,000 square feet. So it's not the perfect world, but now we have to stock and inventory items that we've never had to do that before. So when LVL becomes available, we might have to stockpile 12 weeks worth of usage, not 2 weeks worth of usage of LVL.
Yeah.
And it's just, and the insider secret is every house we're shipping right now is missing a pantry door because it's been on back order for 6 weeks, and every week it hasn't come in. So that's it's happening to everybody that something just isn't coming in that you would expect to be there.
Absolutely. There's no doubt the just in time mentality has been kicked to the curb, and it is really, people are looking at number one, financially, how can they maintain an inventory that will secure their production.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I'm very proud about Materials Exchange and what we have done for the supply chain is we've become this force that is balancing out supply and demand differences.
Mm-hmm.
Just today, in this week, we've been moving OSB across the nation because it's very tight in the West. It seems to be loose in the East. We have a user buying it west of the Rockies, and I talked to two producers today. Oh, we're all on contract. You'll be lucky to get some next year. Like, okay,
Mm.
you're right. You do have it all. Actually, the one producer says to me, we have these rail shipment problems and this problem and that problem. I'm like, well, you haven't shut your mill down. So somehow that product is getting into the
Mm.
supply chain. Maybe you should consider a different method, because at Materials Exchange, we're doing this. We have happy people, happy buyers, happy sellers, because they're making a transaction, and we're how could I say, we're improving the supply chain through technology.
Mm-hmm. You're
Everybody
helping
thought that they
that.
could always solve their problems through a relationship. And the reality is, I think you just got to be a little more ingenuitive. You need the
Mm-hmm.
relationship, but you should use more tools at your disposal. It's a lot like what Modular has done.
Yeah.
They said, look, we have these relationships with suppliers, buyers, sellers. We're going to do this in a factory in a controlled environment. It just makes it a little smarter. One other thing I'd like to touch on is about how you're selling homes. I think this is really interesting. I'm going to share your website of. So
Yeah. So actually, I tell this story, and my wife's not listening, so it'll be fine. But there's a buy now type thing in the production builder world that everybody thinks is nobody will do it. And 12 years ago, back in 2009, a little bit longer than 2000, I came home, and after I decided I wanted to be a nationwide modular builder, and the only way to do that was to do it via the internet, to be truly nationwide. And I came home one day and told my wife I was going to sell homes over the internet, and she told me I was freaking crazy. Nobody would buy homes over the internet. And so I guess I had to prove her wrong. And so we really started then, rolled out our initial website in 2010. And it took me about 5 years to become nationwide. I mean, that's how I worked my way across the country to get to be that licensed, registered, certified builder in 42 states with partner factories. And we sell homes over the internet. We bring in hundreds of registered leads every day, thousands and thousands of users every day on our system. And that's how we got to be nationwide, was the buy now button, people sending us hundreds of thousands of dollars who've never met us and, trusted the technology and our reputation.
well, I can tell you that if I'm going to look for a house, which my wife and I are in the market, and we only look online, of course, and we see and we examine what the house is going to look like before we even go visit it. But if you were building a house, why not sit in your chair, scroll through, choose features, see what it might look like? I think it's genius.
And the technology today, I mean, I just heard the term myself. I'm not going to take credit for it. It was, how can we go from couch to contract with today's technology? And I think we can actually do that with new home construction. I can let you walk through the house before it was ever built, and you can say, buy it now.
And when you hit that button buy now, it could kick off the whole supply chain
Yep.
where you've got the order, you make the place the order with the supplier, and the raw materials are produced. That's
Yes.
a beautiful world. So let's finish up here. We've gone over a little bit. I knew we were because this is one of my favorite things to talk about. Um, what does Ken see happening out there that no one else does? What when you're at a cocktail party and you say something and everyone laughs and then it's going to happen? What is that?
Well, I mean, there's any number of things. It's like, so I'm going to keep my blinders on a little bit. I'm going to say within my industry, there's been some limits on modular construction or offsite construction that have really, I think, limited it. And I think a couple of the things are the ability to shipping widths and actually foundations is I think we're about to go through the biggest limiting factor of modular, and that limiting factor has been we require a floor to be shipped with our modules, because think about most houses, most production builders, they build on a slab. That's the number one way they build on the slab. I currently don't build on a slab in the factory. And I think we're about to change that. I will actually deliver the slab foundation. I will build it in the factory, build my house on it, and deliver the foundation with my house. And that will change modular construction, how it's used and perceived around the country.
So you literally go from dirt to house.
Dirt to house, including on the slab foundation from the factory.
All right, I love it.
That'll be
That
the game changer.
that that will be absolutely. I can see that. I look when I was in college, I slugged around in concrete and about building foundations for buildings, and it would be nice to have that be an easier process for sure.
Yeah, yeah, just do it on a form table at the factory and put a house on it.
There you go. All right, Ken, thank you for your time today. Thank you for all the work you're doing for the industry. What you've built is impressive, and it seems like it's just about ready to take off. We got Gene Meredith says that's a game changer. All right.
Here's Gene. I see my buddy Buzz. He
Yeah.
actually he's promoting our magazine, Offsite Builder.
Oh, there we go. So, look, if you want to get in touch with Ken, you can find him Ken Semler online, but Impresa Modular, um, highly recommend looking into this. What I know for sure is this is not a fad. This is here. It's growing, and it's going to change everything. It really is. Um,
Yep.
all right, everybody, have a great weekend. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it. We'll see everybody next week.
Thank you.